Welcome to another edition of the Artist Bloc podcast. I'm your host, Patricia Schuler, and today's guest is a father. He is a sound engineer and he is an arts leader. Welcome to the show, Atiba Berkley.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, thank you for coming. So excited.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun.
So we met. What was the first Bloc Awards? Like 3 or 4 years ago.
Yeah, three or 4
years ago. Yeah. And since we've met, and I know who you are now, I see you everywhere, doing everything all the time. So it's like you're the man, especially when it comes to sound.
Yeah,
So,
I like to stay in the mix a little bit.
Yes, yeah. I'm
Yeah.
very excited that you agreed to come on the show and drop these jewels that you're gonna give these people today.
Well, thanks. I love what y'all are doing and trying to, educate the community and, share people's stories.
Yes, yes. So tell us about a young Atiba, and how did you get on your journey of becoming this sound engineer, art leader in the community?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I was actually a student of the fine arts when I was younger. I spent my entire high school career training to get a scholarship as an opera singer.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. Yeah, people don't necessarily see that when they see me, but I was that kid in the choir with, I just started my locks over, but my locks were about this long in high school,
Yeah.
and I would be at opera rehearsal with a Wu-Tang t-shirt on, like, I was that dude. And
Yeah.
I learned how to sing, and I used to sing. I could sing in about 8 languages.
Really?
I can read. I don't know the languages,
Okay.
but I had to learn the phonetics of them to sing. So if you hand me a book in German, I can read German.
Wow.
If you hand me a book in Italian, I can read Italian and it'll sound really good for an American. Like,
wow.
but I don't know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I never learned languages. I did take Italian courses for a little bit, and I took like 3 years of honors French.
Okay.
But when you don't speak, it doesn't stick that way. So,
Right.
but yeah.
Wow.
So I did that, and then I fell off what I call the arts ledge, which is when you were an artist that does not, when you're an artist that is not scholarshipable, right? And you get to the end of your high school career, your arts career is done. There's no community support typically. What there is, you really have to fight for and find, if your community has something at all, for people over 18. Because then the day you turn 18 and graduate school, you're no longer a student. You're just considered an amateur. And most communities don't support amateur artists very well. So I fell off the arts ledge. I didn't really want to do performance anymore. I was kind of tired of regurgitating European standards because that's what I had been doing.
Yeah.
And I was probably going to try and switch to composition if I had gotten a scholarship anyway, but I wasn't able to go to college right away. So actually ended up homeless right after high school for a short stint.
Wow.
Was working the whole time, finally saved up money, got my own spot. And then I was like, so what's next? And I moved to North Carolina. I moved to North Carolina in 99 and ended up deciding that I wanted to be a sound engineer, but there was nowhere to do it. And like the very next year after I made that decision, GTCC opened up its audio program, and I was enrolled in the second semester it existed.
Wow.
But I had already started like buying equipment and learning on my own, and so that's kind of the beginning. That was how it started. I wanted to be close to the stage. I missed it. I wanted to be in the arts and around the stage. And the arts in academia, they teach you that like only the best counts. Like in high school, it's always about who can get the highest score in their jury and who can, paint the best pictures and win these contests and stuff, as opposed to art as just a part of life or way of life. And once I realized there were other ways to stay connected to the arts, it was a really valuable lesson. And I was like, okay, well, I can do audio. I wanted to be a record producer or A&R for a major label or a sound engineer. I had a teacher, an English teacher, that made us do a career track English class. And she made us pick careers. She's like, you got to think about this, and it's your paper, it's your grade. I was like, okay, let me think about it. So I narrowed it down to those 3. We had to interview people from all parts that we picked. And a local sound engineer, really, really good friend of mine now named Bobby Kelly. I was referred to him, and he took me to buy my first pair of headphones, and we listened to a bunch of stuff, and he taught me kind of how music stores and sampling and trying new equipment worked before you buy it, and took me to a recording studio he worked with, and I got to investigate that equipment, walked me through some live scenarios. So I got to really investigate kind of the full realm of sound engineering from a music standpoint. And I had met with a record label A&R, and I had met with some producers also. And once audio was there, it had the tech aspect that I really liked because I'm kind of a science geek. And then it had guaranteed money.
I feel that.
People don't realize, they sell this thing about, being a popular artist, and that's what the arts are, being popular. But all popular artists have support, especially if they're popular. They have to manage life. And so, but those people get checks.
Yeah.
If you can figure out what those job titles are called.
Yeah.
And learn those skills. So audio was the one I was like, look, the whole crowd can boo the whole show. And as long as I did my job, I still get a check. Let's do that.
Yeah.
So.
I have so many questions. Okay. This is the closest to what you just said. Can you define an A&R? I feel like I have an idea of what an A&R is because you hear that term all the time. But can you define what an A&R is?
Well, A&Rs are largely being phased out. I'll say that first of all. But in a traditional record company, A&R stands for artist and repertoire. So their job was to go find new talent. But then also, especially kind of in like the golden age of A&R, like these stories that you hear about, oh, so-and-so was playing in a club and, my car broke down. So I went to the local bar and, got a hotel for the night. And then I walked in, there was this guy playing in the hotel lobby. And now that dude's Michael Jackson, whatever the story is, that's what an A&R does. They literally scout new talent wherever it can be found. So they're the guys that used to go to the high school talent shows, that used to, show up at the gym jams and show up at local venues and shows and decide who gets to be the next person. And A&R's job is to bring talent to a label. So they scout these people, they develop relationships with them. They might see somebody and be like, yo, man, you're dope. I can't sign you at all. You're not ready yet. But like, how old are you? You're 14 right now? Come see me when you're 19. And in the meantime, work on this and this and this and stay in touch with me.
Right. You need time to develop.
Yeah, I need time to develop. And so A&Rs would develop talent and find talent. And a lot of A&Rs also double dipped as producers and then would get some A&Rs just did the relationship and contract stuff, but a lot of them did double dip as producers. Perfect example, one of the most prolific examples, Quincy Jones. Quincy Jones went from being a jazz player to being a composer to being like one of the greatest A&Rs and producers ever. But he would find people would also bring him people. So, but that's what A&R does. They find.
That makes a lot of sense. Now that you've broken it down, and you feel like, well, not that you feel like, I know for sure because everything is changing right now in the world, and the lines of distribution are being broken down, and people can be independent and just go straight online. So is that why the A&R position is kind of phasing out?
It is, but labels still need them. Because when you're a CEO running a company and you've got all of this and you got to take care of books and meetings and big sponsors and all that stuff, you might not have time as a CEO of a company to go down to this little club in Brooklyn, and hear about this group playing this club called Tramps that has an upright bass. But then next thing you know, that group is the Roots. And do you want more drops? And I used to go see them at a little club called Tramps in New York, and they would come in from Philly with an upright bass,
Well, let's come on back to North Carolina then. So you moved down here, you found the program at GTCC. And you started that. Were you working, like gigging doing sound engineering work?
I bought some equipment. Like that English class that I took was before the program at GCC. And I was just trying to go to school because that's what you're supposed to do, right?
Right. That's what they tell you.
And I made it about 2 or 3 semesters and I dropped out. And I was like, this isn't going to work for me right now. I don't have the direction I want. And I promised myself I'd never waste money on an education that I don't want. Like, it's just bad debt. So, but that was when I had the class. So from having that class, I was like, I want to be a sound engineer. I was like, okay, well, I'm not in school and I'm not rich. So I started buying equipment, learning, and I started working with my friends' bands and stuff. And so, but like my 21st birthday party, instead of like going and getting drunk and all that stuff, I printed flyers at Kinko's that I made in Microsoft Paint.
Wow.
Yeah. Like I went straight stick figure. Like I drew a house and I drew a couple of people, and I drew a green tree with a little green ball top.
Yeah.
And then I said, house party. And I went to Kinko's and I printed like, I don't know, maybe 5,000 of these.
Yeah.
They're like 8.5 by 11 paper. And then just like cut them up. I made them cut them into like,
the little,
there's 4
like,
per
squares.
page.
Yeah.
Yeah. But we had like 500 people in a basement. I had 2 live acoustic acts and like 7 DJs.
Wow.
But I threw a production party because I needed to prove to myself that when I could promote something, two, that my belief in my friend's talent was like valid, that like I had an eye for talent, because I still had an eye on, like, I was like, I'm a sound engineer now, I'm going to do this, but I still like to produce. So like if I could be a engineer and a producer, that's double the credits on a record. You kidding me? Like, you know, like I was like, I'm going to do this.
Yeah. So
I threw it, and like, I can honestly say everybody that played that party is like still a professional musician today, pretty much.
Yeah. This is so random. So, because I know you told me earlier that you teach. Do you want to be a teacher?
Yes and no. Okay. It's really funny. I've always wanted to teach on my own terms. People have always like, Atiba, you should be a teacher. But I'm going to tell you kids the truth. I couldn't work for a school system.
School systems are tricky because I work for the school system.
Yeah, but I could not work for a school system, like especially a public school system.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to tell people, I'm going to talk about politics. I'm going to talk about all of that stuff because it's all connected. Yeah. And like, I don't want my curriculum to be limited by, you know, your
standards
politics.
Of it. Yeah. You'd be a great teacher.
Well, I do. With the Blues Society right now, I'm basically our only educator for our Blues in the Schools program. So like, people would never think that a program about blues and blues history and legacy, which I link all the way to hip hop and rock and roll, would talk about redlining or would talk about equity. But that's the whole point of the conversation. Right. Like, it's all tied in together. For me, you know, it's like there's the art part where it's like, and a lot of teachers, I think that I'm coming in to talk about, you know, well, blues happens on the 1, 4, and 5, and there's 12 bar, and listen to this song. But understanding that, you know, that art form and all these American and pop art forms, especially musical art forms, are directly connected to like our African heritage and legacy is like really important. It's documented that, you know, part of the reason that people even experience Black music the way they do is because our music and our art forms were never of just art. They are of life. You know, if I tap out the wrong rhythm on this drum, I've now told a your mama joke instead of letting you know that somebody is coming to launch war on your village. Like, you know what I mean? Right. So it's really important that you get these rhythms correct. Right. You know, and that you hit them, you know, with the certain type of emphasis. Yeah. You know, depending on what their, you know, purpose is. Yeah. And we recognize that, you know, we recognize it when we hear someone singing a song and, you know, they're singing the lyric. And it's a happy lyric, but they're not happy. Like you have to deliver that. And that's the job of like in African culture, our griots, you know, their whole job, whole families, you know, genetically have been predestined to, you know, be painters, to be our oral storytellers, to be our, you know, musicians, to be our healers, you know, because they have this ability to digest that and represent that and maintain it and to pass it down, you know, so, and we do that even when we're in another society and are pulled away from our original culture. There are parts that we keep, that we tuck away and that remain. Yeah. And they leach into culture. And that's how, you know, pop music came to be.
You went so many places and I want to go with you. Okay. We got to come back. Okay. Yeah. It's okay. It's okay. Because we got to get to the Blues Society too. Yeah. But okay. Let's get back to 21-year-old Atiba. Okay. So you have your house party. You realize your gifts and your talents. You see your purpose. What was the next step in towards like building the career that you have today? Because you have a great career. I mean, in my eyes, I don't know, because it's like your life. Right. But from what I see you everywhere. If anybody asks for sound engineering here or in Durham, because, you know, I saw you in Durham as well. Yeah. It's like Atiba. You know what I'm saying? So how, you know, what was that transition like?
I think it was, I've been a business manager for when I was 18. Like I was 6 months left in high school. And my regional manager at Pizza Hut, who I used to mess with all the time, like, Rick, when you gonna make me manager? The day I turned 18, apparently. Right? And I didn't realize I was getting trained on like, you know, American corporate customer service. Like I knew that's what I was getting trained on, but I'm like a high school kid. I'm like, you want me to go to class on Saturday? And when I'm doing all these classes, you gonna pay me how much money? Okay, let's do that. Right. Like it wasn't a thing, like the forethought wasn't there. But I go in and I'm trained in, you know, behavior-based interviewing, customer service management, inventory control, all this stuff. And I realized that, like, there's this whole system. This is how it works. This is how people, make money. But it doesn't just work here. When you hear the word corporate, that works everywhere, So I had those skills, which I was just really lucky to basically be gifted by a company. And anybody working for a company, like, don't work for them, like, make them work for you. Like, if they offer you training, think about what you can get out of it for yourself instead of just saying, oh, make me go to this dumb class. Like, you really can learn skills that are valuable.
Yeah.
Even if you don't necessarily always appreciate the environment or the people teaching you, like, take the skills, like, do it for you. You got to be there anyway.
Right.
So having those corporate trainings and understanding what people really wanted, my role in the arts became apparent that, when you are not on stage, you are in service.
Okay.
The only role in entertainment that is not in service is an artist on stage mid-performance.
Why do you say that?
Because it's true.
Specifically mid-performance.
Because when you're off stage, you still have to, respond to others.
Okay.
So, like, if I'm in a meeting with staff, even though I'm the artist, I'm Jay-Z and Beyonce. You think I could just say to whatever to whoever just because I'm paying them?
Right. No.
Probably not.
No.
And that's what I mean.
Yeah.
On stage, as your character in your art, that's where you have complete freedom. Gotcha. But we all have social restrictions and stuff like that.
Gotcha.
But you are in service.
Yeah.
And whether you're a filmmaker, if you're a filmmaker, unless you're the writer, you're in service to a script.
You're in service to everybody. The producers, everyone.
But all those people are also in service to each other.
Right.
Because at the end, y'all only get that Grammy or that Oscar if everybody did their job exceptionally well.
That's true.
So y'all can shove him to the side because you don't like him, but if he's the best guy with lighting that you can get for this project right now, which has to shoot right now because we wrap in 3 days, and you better make it work.
Yeah. And
so you find different ways of compromising, but hopefully without compromising yourself.
Right. Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so that's what I did to make it. I'm nice.
Yeah.
People will say, like, oh, sound guys are jerks, blah, blah. I never wanted to be that sound guy, and I refuse to be. I've quit smoking now, but one time in an attempt to quit smoking, I got, like, really, really angry. Like, they say that happens. I didn't believe it, but I actually cursed at somebody through a monitor on stage.
Okay.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm talking to them through their talkback mic, and I'm like evilly.
Yeah.
Like, like I was being just pure evil.
Yeah.
But aside from that, like, I'm a nice guy. I will listen to what the artist wants. I will tell people no. Even I think when we worked together on the Block Awards, it's like there's this vision that we have, and then there's the reality of what we can do.
Right.
And we have to bridge that gap in every situation.
Right.
Because this show is going to happen.
Right.
And we can be up here in disagreement and angry, or we can get up here and make things happen the best that we can, and end up with I think we had a pretty good result.
I
don't think we got angry actually either on that show, but just an example,
because we had a lot of technical difficulties on that show.
We fought through that bad boy, but we did well.
Yeah,
I think.
Yeah. We fought together because I had to get in the trenches with you.
Yeah.
So,
we did.
Yeah,
we did. It was good. Yeah. It's been fun watching you guys. Like battle and fight. I think I've watched you guys become, professional entrepreneurs. I think I've gotten to watch you guys, like, kind of evolve from being, more amateur entrepreneurs and artists to more professional entrepreneurs and artists. Not that any of it was not good.
Right. No, it's
just there's a difference.
Right.
And you can only get it by being in that fire. Right. Like, and getting burnt the hell up.
Right.
And then sometimes getting to cool off and then getting burnt the hell up again.
Right.
Like,
Right.
But that's and a lot of people don't. So when people talk about entertainment's hard and, it's not for everybody, it's not.
It isn't.
Some people don't understand urgent. Even in my, like, personal relationships, like my relationship with my wife does not have a sense of urgency.
Yeah.
Like, just general, it's not of who she is.
Yeah.
And I'm like, hyper focus. My ability to hyper focus scares her.
Yeah.
She thinks I'm going to kill one of our children because, like, if I'm watching a video, there can be a child right here, and I will not hear the child. Like, my hyper focus is on because I'm really interested.
Yeah.
So. But that's also what people pay me for, is my hyper focus, my ability to shut everything else out.
Right.
Unfortunately, at one point I learned, I think, how to shut down my bladder for like up to 18 hours.
That's not healthy.
It's not something I consciously did, but you're in a show, and like you've probably done it during a taping.
Yeah.
You got to go, and guess what?
You gotta hold it.
It's the golden hour. Nope.
You're right.
Like
no, you gotta hold it.
You gotta hold it,
and you gotta stay there until it's done.
And there's no
matter what time.
Doesn't matter how long.
Yeah.
And there is no breaks. If talent can't take a break, you can't neither.
No.
Right.
No.
So
that makes me think about, I was on this film set, and it was the last day. So, and it was when the Artist Bloc had first opened that I was on this film set. So I was it was homecoming, Auntie's homecoming. So I was trying to get back to the Artist Bloc because we're normally done working by like 9, 10 at night. We didn't leave that set till 4 a.m. because it was the last day. You had to stay, like, because you had to get it done.
Yeah.
So what you're saying is very true. And that all goes to like your dedication, like how bad do you want it? You know what I'm saying?
There's a lot of dedication. There's stuff that you do that you never would expect. I once was left at a vineyard by a production company after an event. It was a wedding for like the owner's daughter. And when the manager wanted to leave, but we had like hung lights in the ceiling of temp. Also, we had like a crew of like 10 people set up the show, and the owner of the company left 2 of us to break it down.
Wow.
You know, but we had to get everything. It's a vineyard. There's nothing but vines and like this one building and a pop-up tent that the rental company's coming for tomorrow.
Right.
So, you know, we had to do it. And then the guy I was working with broke a finger, broke a toe, something horrible happened. I think like he broke a finger, something fell on his hand or something. So then my partner was crippled and stuff. We didn't get out of there until, I want to say 5:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
Wedding was over at 10 p.m.
Wow.
You know what I mean? The wedding was over like 9 or 10 p.m.
Yeah.
And all this gear has to get out. It has to get in that truck right there.
Right.
And we're the only 2 that's going to do it.
Right.
So we can gripe and moan or we can get it done. But the industry expects that you get it done.
Period.
So it can be really abusive. But also understanding who you're working for and what you're signing up for is important.
Yeah.
You know, like not all money's good money. No. Not all experience is good experience.
Yeah.
You know, and that I think is one of the hardest lessons for people to learn.
Yeah. Is,
you know, you got to really, you know, look out for yourself.
Yeah.
And really investigate and learn how to ask questions. Say, I don't know. There's the number. That's one of the top lessons right there. Say, I don't know.
Right.
Say, I don't know.
Right.
Don't be over here holding something. But, yo, go get a C-37. What?
Right.
Okay. They needed that C-37 30 seconds ago, and you don't know what it is, but you're too scared to look stupid to just say, I don't know.
Right.
And now you're wasting people's time.
Right.
Don't do that. It's a paperclip or a clothespin.
A clothespin,
A clothespin, for those that don't know.
I was about to say, it's
not paperclip, it's clothespin.
Yeah, which is so odd that they call it a C-37, but yeah.
Yeah, it's stupid.
It is.
There's stories about why, but like it's still stupid.
No, I think that's important though, to acknowledge what you don't know, because at the end of the day, a lot of us don't know. Like, we're learning as we go, and honestly, like, sometimes that's the best teacher to learn from experience as you go. Because you can
also
read
a
in
real
books all day
professional will tell you
that they don't know.
No, well, they'll tell you that they don't know, but no, they'll tell you what you don't know.
Oh yeah.
Like if you say I don't know, they're like, you know what? Why don't we stay after 15? Do you know how much I've learned by saying I don't know?
Yeah.
Saying I don't know just got me another new mentor that's about to send me to the next level in television. I mix for audio, TV, and music. Sports television is my specialty in television. I've done reality television as well. And like, you know, just ENG production stuff. I've not really done film. I've helped on some independent films, but that's not really my thing.
Yeah.
And, you know, so that's one part that I work in. I work with live music. So whether it's festival style, whether it's boutique concert, large format, small format, I work on, you know, live audio.
Yeah.
And then I do theater stuff, and that's plays, it's dance rehearsals, it's and performances, it's all sorts of things that happen in theaters.
Yeah.
Include films.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I think I was able to do audio for a film just not too long ago for a Tab.
What film? Oh, yes.
Over at the Blandwood Mansion.
The movie, yes.
You know what I mean? So, but understanding the needs of different formats is important. Understanding the needs of different genres. For me in music, that's also been one of the things that's kept me employed. Some guys are like, I'm gonna make it big in hip hop. That's great, but if hip hop ain't got a check for you, can you mix bluegrass? Because when they call me and say, hey, I've got the show, do you mix bluegrass? I'll be like, yeah, you want to see my IBMA credits on monitors in front of house? Like,
yes.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, do you need a reference?
Yeah.
Because I've got production companies that will tell you, yeah, he mixed the hell out of some bluegrass.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
Like, so, I mixed bluegrass. I worked with a production company that worked in local venues here and mixed metal and hardcore for 10 years.
Wow.
Reggae, hip hop, all sorts of DJ. I've also run my own events. Like from that first production part of that I threw, I've thrown everything from house music events. I live streamed for 2 years from a bar that no longer exists. It was called Brewski's Tavern on West Market Street. I live streamed every Wednesday for 2 years on Ustream, like almost 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Long before Facebook Live.
Yeah.
And like, all that type of stuff. People thought I was crazy. They're like, nobody's going to watch your show from a bar. And we would have like maybe, some nights we'd have 3 people watch the stream. Some night, I think the most we might have had in one night might have been like 50 something.
Yeah.
People watching one stream because it was like a band that was a little bit more popular that advertised for themselves better.
Yeah.
That you could watch it that way.
Yeah.
I had one band come in from Brooklyn and they were talking to their mom and grandma on camera, and they were their mom and girlfriend, and they were so happy because the girlfriend realized they really were actually playing music somewhere.
Yeah.
And the mom realized they really were actually playing music somewhere.
Yeah.
And that they were actually decent. That band actually does my favorite Outcast prototype cover.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. You just like, you have so many experiences. Okay, I had another question. When was the first time you got paid, and what was it? And then
for anything or for my art?
No, for your art.
Okay.
Well, specifically for sound engineering.
Okay.
What was the first time you got paid, and what was the gig?
Okay.
Yeah.
The first time that I got paid is a little sometime. It's probably, this is close if it isn't it, but I don't think it's it, but it's the closest one I can remember. Vanessa Ferguson, actually.
Really?
I was one of Vanessa Ferguson's first front of house engineers. She had a group called the Soul Set Free Project. And I know it wasn't the first one because I got it from a gig I had done for another guy. Her drummer at the time was this guy, JV, that used to live here. Now he's in Charleston. He's a chef and still a drummer. But he was like, man, we got to get you in here on this audio. They're killing us, man. Like, we sound like trash, Atiba. He's like, we got to get you in here. Yeah. And I was still new, but I had an ear. And I was like, yeah, I'd love to work with you guys. I used to sit in the Renaissance. And there's this guy named Puff, RIP, he's gone now. But Puff was one of the club owners, and him and I had to have a conversation before I could mix in his club. Wow. And we had the conversation. It was just it was weird because it was like a business conversation. Like he was, he appeared to be, I don't like to make judgments about people, he appeared to be, somewhat of the streets, but clearly he's a business owner. He's running this club. He's the owner. They've got their lease and they're doing great. I mean, the Renaissance ran for years and had a lot of great nightlife for our community. So he just wanted to talk to me and like meet me. And I thought that was really interesting. But I went in and everything was cool with him. And then everything was cool with Vanessa. And she was like, we could try it out. But she was in this group called Soul Set Free Project. It was her and a guy named Matthew Duckworth and a Letitia. I can't remember Letitia's last name. Letitia, and the band. And I would sit in a corner, like the size of this stage, and the whole band would be in this. But they would also get like special guests from like the black promoters. Like one night, I have a video on Facebook somewhere on my business page of D-Ray, the comedian. He was like the club guest. They bring like celebrities to the clubs. They got him there that night. And he actually got up on stage. And I was like, oh, D-Ray sang on my microphone. There was no lights. It was like horrible. I'm sitting back in the corner. No joke. Like there's a drum set here. I'm back in the corner with headphones, like mixing like this. Yeah. The speakers all the way over there. Yeah. And I can barely hear anything. JV's was like in my ear. Yeah. But that's what it was like. I think it was like $50
Okay.
for like load in a whole show, load out using all my own equipment.
Yeah.
Nobody bought anything but instruments.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
But we made it work. And the group was so talented. They would have them rocking.
Yeah.
And we were done early. We were done by like 11 or 11:30 or maybe midnight, because then they would go to the club DJ upstairs, like on the second floor of the Rennie. They would have like the party DJ and stuff.
Gotcha.
And they would do a switch over.
Yeah.
So we would be there for like the ladies' hour on Friday night or whatever, or Saturday night for like 10 to 12. And then they turn up.
Yeah.
We'd like slide out and disappear.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that was probably like that was definitely my first like consistent gig.
But you learned a lot from that experience though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I learned how to listen differently. Sitting on the stage with the band, while I would never choose it as an ideal. I learned about the importance of communication, paying attention, you know, and got to appreciate stuff, you know, from a different perspective.
Yeah.
Because you really see it from the band's perspective when you're up there with them.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So sometimes I might have to stop a drunk person from coming and spilling a drink on, you know, the monitors or on people, or because they would just, I mean, people would just be packed in there. It seems so strange now after COVID. Nobody's anywhere, but like people would just be in the club like this, trying to look good in their 6-inch stilettos. And, you know.
Yeah. Life pre-COVID.
Yeah.
What was an experience that taught you one of the biggest lessons that you learned? Because, you know, you always learn from, you know, quote unquote bad experiences.
Manage your calendar, show up on time. There's a period, especially in television, where I have a crewer that I respect so much that I really let down. And not only did I let him down twice in a row, like he had crewed me out, and I was new to the audio side of television. And I'd been doing really great work, and I deserved to be there. Like I fought to be there, and he helped me out, but I really had to earn my spot, and I did. And then I messed it up.
By being late?
By being non-existent. Like I put it like on my calendar in the wrong month or something.
Oh.
I no-showed twice in 2 weeks.
Wow.
Like we had a show on this Saturday and a show on this Saturday.
Yeah.
And I had them both.
Yeah.
So after I got the calls and the first one was messed up, they replaced me by the time I figured out the first time.
Yeah.
Because like this can't happen again.
Yeah.
The very next Saturday it happened again.
Wow.
Because when I did those shows to begin with, I had them wrong on the calendar.
Gotcha.
You know?
Yeah.
And so it actually set me back a little bit in my television career, because there's only so many people you can crew through. And everybody knows each other. Right. We all work for the same people.
Right.
You know? So it was one of those things where like you don't want to get that mark of being unreliable.
Yeah.
So being early is on time. When I was really young in the game, I used to, especially in television, I used to laugh at the guys. There'd be guys that would drive in from wherever, you know, because none of us live like at the university where we're working or doing a sports game or something.
Right.
And guys be like, yeah, I got here 2 hours ago. You know?
Yeah.
But it's just in case.
Yeah.
Because nobody wants to hear any excuses. They don't care about the highway. They don't care about whatever. You notice the Super Bowl is always on, right? That doesn't mean somebody didn't die a horrible death that day.
Right.
That game's still got to go.
Right.
So
on time.
On time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Satellites cost money, and they got something else queued up.
Right.
Like, let's go.
Right.
So it's I would say that's probably the biggest mistake that I've ever made. It's probably being on time. That and maybe getting overconfident.
Let's talk about that. Getting overconfident.
Yeah.
Just feeling yourself.
I'm not one to have the most ego like that. People may not believe me sometimes because I'm a confident person generally. So I've been told that sometimes I come across as a know-it-all or this, that. But being overconfident in where you are, if you haven't spent the time, don't pretend like you do. Because when you show up, you're going to have to show out.
Right. Right.
So don't take a gig you shouldn't take.
Right.
Because then people are just going to say, oh, that guy's inexperienced. Like I have people offer me jobs I'm not prepared for. And I tell them, thank you. Please keep me on your list. I'm training for that, but I'm not ready. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is humbling to say, but you have to know yourself and your skill set.
Yeah.
Because people are going to ask you specific stuff. Can you do this? have you worked with this piece of equipment?
Right.
Don't say yes if you haven't. You know?
Yeah.
There's some guys that I know in this industry that could just pick up, and you know them too. They could pick up the manual for a Red camera and tell you everything that you could ever do with a Red camera.
Yeah.
Like, we know those folks. We've been to school with them, all that stuff. I'm not that person. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So if I've never worked with that particular mixer or that, you know, piece of equipment, you know, that piece of wireless, I'll look it up, you know, but I'll also be honest, say no.
Yeah.
You know, and realize that some of that stuff comes with time.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of the equipment that I work around and on, I can't afford. I don't have it at home to practice on.
Right.
So it is, in a sense, like an on-the-job training. Sometimes you can have a mentor give you access to some equipment, stuff like that. You can go online and download manuals and, you know, look at equipment. YouTube has made it amazing now.
YouTube
like
is
I wish YouTube was what it is now. When I was
YouTube's
when I was
amazing.
younger, so I still learn a lot. You know, that way even. But you also have to be willing to learn and continuously learn.
Yeah.
So many people just want to be like, oh, I'm the shiznit. I'm done. Be like this for the rest of my life. Feel free. The rest of the world gonna move on, and you will be right where you were. Everybody else be over here making more money, doing bigger projects and stuff.
Right. Yeah.
You know, so.
Yeah, you learn every day. Yeah, and you have to be open to learn. And I was gonna say you have to be mature enough to tell people like that you don't know, or you know, because I'll tell people like I don't know, but I can figure it out. But I don't know. I just want to put that up front. But I do think you have to reach a certain level of maturity to even say that.
My primary audio mentor, I have mentors. Mentorship is really important too. I have mentors for the different aspects that I work in. I have a theater mentor. I have streaming mentors. I have live audio mixing mentors. Like one of the guys that I get to have conversations with mixes for, he just did J-Lo at the White House.
Oh, okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like, I get to, like, you know, the former front of house engineer for One Direction can get a cookie recipe from him right now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And and it's funny because all that's network, like I've never met him in person, but we have a relationship and he respects me as a professional. You know, because of how we were introduced and all that stuff. So,
right.
Having mentors is really important.
So, real quick before we get into the 5 questions, I want you to talk about the Piedmont Blues Preservation Society.
Okay.
And how you came about with that.
All right. Well, Piedmont Blues Preservation Society is a 35-year-old nonprofit that is responsible for curating and preserving the legacy of, you know, the African American music known as the blues, and also for engaging the Black community with its own art form.
Okay.
So, you know, it's kind of a multi-tiered organization. I've always volunteered. My grandmother volunteered endlessly at the Greensboro Urban Ministry, through her church, at the hospital. She retired from the hospital and would still go every Saturday and volunteer there. You know, so volunteerism was really big in my life, and I realized it was something, giving back is something that helps feed my soul. So I started volunteering with the Blues Society when they had a board position that I found out was available. And they had an interview process, which we still do. And I interviewed, told them why I wanted to be on the board. They thought it was a good idea. And I was immediately the youngest board member.
Yeah.
At age, I was like 33 or 34. And I was the youngest person. That seemed insane to me.
Well, I mean, I think you were a good person to put on the board, but that's neither here nor there. Keep going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that started me just learning more about the organization and what they do. We have programs that are community programs, like special needs and elder outreach. We go into nursing homes and special needs facilities and adult day centers, and we bring blues music and culture to those experiences. We also go into the schools with our Blues in the Schools program and rec centers. We've gone into church programs, church child care programs and stuff like that to bring blues education to those organizations and to their patrons. So what we're most known for is probably the Carolina Blues Festival, which is now, I think, officially the oldest blues festival in the Southeast.
Wow.
Which is like something we have great pride in. You know, we've had all sorts of legends of the blues community come across our stage, and the Blues Festival has been held in multiple parts of our community. So we've had it in High Point and Winston. It's most popularly been in Greensboro and is currently resides in Greensboro. But you know, it's a really fun event, and it's like a family reunion every year.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
The organization was started by the owner of a newspaper and several nightclubs. The newspaper was ESP, and which is like the arts paper before kind of Yes Weekly and like the period that we're in now. But his name was Bill Mitchell.
Okay.
And he is a beloved community member and a really kind person. He owned clubs and owned an arts paper for our community, and you know, felt that, you know, the blues was one of his favorite genres, and that a blues society would be good. So him, along with Logie Meacham and several other people, started the Blues Society, kind of first as a club, but after only 1 year, they decided to get their nonprofit status and see if they could do more with it. And you know, I came in, and after several years, was given feedback, and the board was transitioning. You know, people, like I said, it was a pretty, you know, experienced board, let's call it. I was like the youngest person there, and people had spent a lot of time and were kind of burnt out. So we started looking for new board members still, you know, and eventually they decided to change leadership and asked me if I'd be interested in being president. Nice. And I talked to my wife about it and thought about it, and I was like, you know what? I never thought that opportunity would present itself, especially to me at such a young age, to be like a nonprofit director. But yes. And so I did it. And now it's been like 3 years, and we've been off to the races and faced all sorts of challenges and overcome them. And we've now survived a pandemic, and we're looking to grow and change. And,
yes.
We just redesigned our websites, piedmontblues.org. And we've got a Spotify channel now, and we're using Instagram more, and Facebook is more engaging than it's ever been for us.
Yeah.
Redesigning our newsletter and looking at new programming.
Yeah.
One thing that happened was the group had been largely administrated by white people. We've always had black people involved with the group, and there's never really been any issue of black or white. But as I came into it just from a different perspective and being younger, having conversations that are difficult was really important, and educating people was important.
Right.
And it was happening, but I felt like we could do more. So I've pushed really hard to, you know, continue the legacy that existed, but also to expand it. And so we're building a program. We reworked our education program. It's going to be called the Blues Equity Institute.
Okay.
And it's going to be a place where we can investigate black arts culture through a blues lens.
Interesting.
As opposed to just looking at music as this little spot on a pop map, this blip that happened in time.
Yeah.
We want to look at its overall influence, because it's everywhere.
Yeah.
Like hip hop is blues grandbaby.
It is.
You know?
Yeah.
And I think I was talking earlier with someone, and I said, you know, blues, people don't know blues was the world's first pop music. It didn't exist until blues. And one of the key people that made blues popular is from North Carolina.
Who was that?
His name is Blind Boy Fuller. And he was born in Wadesboro. He lived up in Danville and in Winston, but Durham claims him. That's where he spent most of his adult life, was in Durham. And he went blind by the time he was 19, died by the time he was 40. And during the last 5 years of his career, which was pretty prolific, like this guy was a prolific songwriter. They had been doing race records, and a record company found him and started inviting him to New York. He went to New York, and in 5 years recorded over 100 singles, all of which saw radio play.
Wow.
And that is how blues became pop music. His songs, in their wide range of lyrics, wide range of topics, and with a Piedmont style picking on an acoustic guitar, was some of the first records that were being, you know, requested. people not only wanted to hear it on the radio, they wanted to have it in their house and would go out and buy it and started requesting, no, we need that Blind Boy Fuller.
Right.
We need Smells Like Fish right now.
That's the name of the song.
Girl. And they didn't understand the lyrics.
Right.
You know, he was talking about some topics, and that's another thing people, you know, conversations that we get to have at the Blues Society. People don't understand like all the sensationalism and all of the coded messaging that you hear about from spirituals and Underground Railroads. All that stuff is in there.
Yeah.
So he was having songs talking about Smells Like Fish and things he liked to eat. I'll be polite and leave it there.
I caught the hint.
Yeah. And but I don't think most people did. Maybe the Black people did,
right?
Because they're used to the kind of the coded language and kind of that
right
type of thing. But it was playing all over, people dancing with their kids to this stuff, not realizing what he's talking about.
Yeah,
you know.
That reminds me of the song by Nets, Too Close.
Mm-hmm.
You know, for a long time, people did not know what they were talking about, but
people, and that's part of the genius and the history of and the magic of blues. Blues taught America how to hide things in your lyrics, how to be a little bit more nuanced about it.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
Yeah,
and you know, it led to rock and roll, led to funk, hip hop.
Yeah,
half of R&B is rhythm and what blues. So like I don't even say R&B anymore.
What do you say?
Rhythm and blues.
Oh.
Yeah, I don't shorten it anymore because I feel like that blues part has been so lost. And as I advocate for our art and for equity in it, it's also where blues is also where record companies learned how to abuse artists for the first time, because record sales weren't a thing. So, but once you realized, oh, I can control this, I'm going to pay him $5 for this song. I'm going to go make 10 grand off of it.
Yeah.
Never have to talk to him again. He signed the contract.
Yeah.
So, you know, there's lots of conversations we get to have through the blues.
Yeah.
And we also just get together and have fun. We have jams in our community. People get together and, you know, we have like the R&B community has a lot of open mics, right? And so you go and you show up and it's like Showtime at the Apollo. Everybody's waiting to boo you, kind of is how it feels. Like if you're not good, you like don't even get up on the stage.
Right.
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 Blues is the exact opposite.
Where people are more embracing.
Yeah. Come and play. You don't know this song? That's fine. You play guitar? Hey, this one's C, G, and E. Follow me.
Yeah.
No, not like that. Not like that. Like this. Let's keep going. Don't stop. Like,
yeah.
It's a really encouraging community, and it's embraced that way because that's how it was. It's full of, you know, kind of lessons from our ancestors.
Yeah.
And it's part of an oral storytelling tradition.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, so we have histories and stories that are told inside of the blues narrative that aren't told anywhere else and that aren't preserved anywhere else.
Yeah.
You know, even like one of my favorite stories to tell is like the story of the song Kumbaya, right? Because gospel and spirituals and blues are all married together and come from the same places. And Kumbaya is a great story about equity, because when we think of Kumbaya, I know from me, I was born in 1980. And when I think of Kumbaya and how I grew up with that song, it was, you know, white kids that could afford to go to sleepaway camp singing it joyously with marshmallows over a fire, right? But that's not what the song was or what it was ever intended. It was a popular song, but Kumbaya is an African dialect, Geechee Gullah, of American spiritual saying, come by here. Kumbaya. Kumbaya.
Because that song is Kumbaya, my Lord, Kumbaya. Right?
Come by here, my Lord. Come by here. And when you think of every lyric you ever heard, it is the most depressing, horrible thing. Come by here. Somebody's dying, my Lord.
Yeah.
Come by here.
Yeah.
You know, like all the lyrics are some of the saddest things. And it's a really good example of how misunderstood the blues can be.
Yeah.
You know, and the credit. Just 2 to 3 years ago, there was an early recording found from a field recorder, some audio field recorder that had gone around and had recorded the Geechee Gullah people. And it's like the 1920s. There's now a recording that was found. And that's how they were credited academically finally, and said, this is what they were saying. These are the actual lyrics. And this is the culture that it comes from. You know?
Yeah.
But nobody would credit them with that song.
Yeah.
You know, but it's important when we understand where that song's come from. Maybe now you'll share that story with your kids and you won't have them singing happy songs about the roasting marshmallows around the fire.
Right.
Maybe you'll have proper reverence for the oppression of a people.
Right.
When you learn that. So
yeah. You gave me a lot to think about right there. And I'm gonna talk to you about off camera.
Okay.
But, okay. Well, let's move forward because that was like I can keep going. But anyway, so let's talk about our 5 steps for people to get into this sound engineering game.
Yeah.
So go ahead and tell us about that.
First thing I would do if you want to do sound engineering, understand what it is. Understand what the definition of sound is.
Let's talk about that. I mean, quickly.
Yeah.
Quickly talk about that.
Sound is energy traveling through a medium to a receiver. That's it. Like, my vocal cords move, they vibrate the air, it resonates around in my mouth, which has a specific shape. The nasal cavity comes out, goes into this microphone. When it hits this microphone, it moves the electrode in the microphone. An electromagnet takes that, turns it into an electrical signal, goes down a cable, goes into whatever, and then we can take that signal and put it back out through a speaker on the other end or a recording device or whatever.
Yes.
So, but for audio, there has to be, a receiver and there has to be a transmitter.
Right. That's very important as your first step, understanding what sound is.
Yeah.
And the process of it, how it works. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So step number 1 is finding out what sound is. Number 2, find out how it works. Like understanding the difference between how your ears work and how a microphone works as a receiver.
Yeah. Yeah.
Understanding how it goes from analog energy to an electrical or digital signal. Because a transformation has to happen.
Right.
And it took people a long time to figure out how that works.
Right. Right.
And the equipment to do it is not cheap.
It is not.
So, and there's a reason.
Yeah.
Because it's very specific technology.
Yeah.
So, understanding it. So, understanding what sound is, understanding how sound works, then trying it.
Okay.
Before you do, go find yourself some equipment of any kind. It doesn't matter. It can literally be your cell phone in your hand. And start to understand it. What happens if you hold it out here and make a sound? What happens if you hold it here and make a sound? Like, you'll start to figure out things like what distortion are and, what a noise floor is and different things that affect it. All the science we can get into. But that's number 3 would be definitely understanding, how it works. We were on 3, right?
Yeah, we were on 3.
So now 4.
No, 3 was experimenting because 2 was understanding how it works.
2 was understanding how it works. 3 was experimenting with it.
Yeah.
4 will be find yourself a mentor. Your mentor can be YouTube to start.
YouTube is real. It's a real thing.
Find yourself a mentor and educate yourself. It's the same step. They're online talking about this all the time. And you start by typing in what is sound.
Yeah. Yeah.
What does an audio engineer do? What does a sound engineer do?
Yeah.
Those would be the first 4 steps. And the last step would be never stop learning.
That's important right there. That's the key right there.
There's always going to be a new piece of technology. I'm not scared of any of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And as a bonus, I would also say number 2 pays really good. So take the pressure off yourself. We always have this thing that we do, especially in America. You got to be number 1. You got to be Michael Jordan if you're going to play ball. You got to. No, you don't. No, you don't.
Yeah.
You know what? If you learn how to dribble and you learn how to dribble well enough to teach somebody else how to dribble, that could be your thing.
Yeah.
You could just be a dribbling ass coach.
Yeah.
Like, that's a thing.
Yeah.
People coach people on nothing but the crossover and get paid tens of thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? So find, your thing and, get good at it. But number 2 pays very well. Like, number 2, you don't have to be the end all be all. You'll probably never hear me say I'm like the best sound engineer. Because there are sound engineers that are much more technically savvy than me.
Yeah.
There are sound engineers that are better with style than I am. but I have a really good balance.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I definitely know my stuff, you know, but I'm not interested in being number one. Also, I think realizing what it takes to be that and do that might not be what you actually want for your life.
That's important right there too.
People are like, I want to be a CEO. Do you know the average CEO only sleeps for 6 hours a night, reads for 2 hours a day, works out for an hour a day? Like,
yeah,
you know, like, is that what you want? You want your life to be that regimented? I never did.
Right.
Right. You know, so that's not necessarily, you know, the path for me. You know, at least not right now. Things change. Maybe you grow and change. That is what you want, but you know, being the number, I had no desire to fight. I must be the number one sound engineer for every Def Jam tour. I know guys that's their goal, and did it. You know, and they're amazing at it. And you know what those guys are doing right now? What? Studying the audio when they can, trading on the stock market, working at Lowe's Foods, Home Depot. Yeah. So you have to, you know, be also ready to pivot, ready to change.
Being versatile and able to pivot is very important. I feel like the pandemic should have taught everybody that you have to pivot.
I hope they're paying attention.
In a moment's notice, right?
You know?
Yes. Okay. That was a great 5 steps. I actually gave them a bonus too. So what would the prerequisite be for the course? They come in tomorrow to class and they know this is what we're going to be learning about. What's the prerequisite tonight before they come to class?
Prerequisite before you come to class.
They can't come to class half stepping. They got to be like focused and ready.
The prerequisite has 2 basic steps. Show up on time and pass no judgment. Early is on time, and be prepared to not judge anyone. I don't care if somebody's standing next to you while you're learning and they stink. I'm dead serious.
Yes.
That happens.
It does happen in life.
Yeah. Like, and in arts.
Yeah.
Okay? Yeah. You know, I don't care if they stink. I don't care if they talk funny.
Yeah.
I don't care how they look. Just be willing to learn from them and with them.
Yeah.
No judgment.
No judgment. Have you heard the saying, no man is your friend, no man is your foe, but every man is your teacher? You heard that before? Yes.
I have.
Yeah.
I have. So, you can learn something from everybody. I've got 4 small children and a wife. They all teach me every day. You know, I've got people all around me that deal with all sorts of stuff, you know, whether it's disability or with really big companies.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And there's something to learn from everybody.
Yeah.
Also remember, learn from people's mistakes.
That's how you learn the most.
Yeah.
It's from mistakes. You don't
we were
learn
talking about that earlier. It's like,
right.
You will learn a lot more when you're troubleshooting and getting something wrong.
Right.
Than you often will when you're getting it right. When you're getting straight A's, yes, you're learning. But a lot of the deeper lessons you need about, you know, tenacity, resilience, patience, and follow through will all come from, you know, you really pushing yourself to just keep at it. Don't judge.
Right.
Keep going.
Right. Right.
You know?
Right. Yes.
You know.
I really enjoyed this conversation with you. I really have.
I've
learned so much. Of course we. I thought we were already friends. Truth be told. Okay.
I was saying it as a joke.
Yes.
You know.
No. I definitely want to talk to you more, like off camera. Just you have a lot of information, and you're so intriguing. The opera thing definitely like put you on a new level for me. It did. Yeah. Not that you were on a good level anyway. It's just it was so different.
My grandmother used to always say, you know, because I've always been so curious and scattered in little ways. And she would be like, you know, you better be careful. You know, you're going to be a jack of all trades and a master of none. And like I said, second place is fine. Who said I need to be a master at everything? What if I just want to know how to do a whole bunch of stuff? What if I want to cook Thai food and mix audio and stream? You know? And hacky sack. I'm really good with a hacky sack.
Okay.
Like I'm really ridiculously good with a hacky sack.
Yeah.
Like just random stuff. If I like something, I'll go figure it out.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, I'll go do it.
Yes. I have another idea that I want to talk to you about too when we get off the camera, but I enjoyed it. I just want to tell you that I really appreciate you coming through and
Hey,
stopping and
I
dropping all
appreciate
this.
you. I was so excited. I'm so engaged with what you do. And can I share something with you?
Sure.
I am a Black man that was raised in patriarchy, and dealing with really strong Black women, even though I was raised by them, can be really intimidating. So it's like, it's really, really funny. But I say it out loud because I think it's important. I don't think enough men say it.
Uh-huh.
And it's because we just don't understand like what's going on inside the female mind and the female psyche sometimes.
Yes.
But I finally, especially through working, we did Women of the Blues as a theme for the Blues Society, and I really took it personally and like looked at how I was interacting with women. Am I really listening to women and their ideas? Am I including them in my conversations and all that stuff? So I just want to say I'm extremely proud of you guys.
Oh,
For being business owners and bosses and working. And I've got to see you guys progress and grow and polish yourselves as you desire.
Yes.
Which is really important, the as you desire part. Other people will tell you what polish looks like, but I see you guys doing it your way, and I really like the way that it's coming out.
Well,
and even if I didn't, congratulations on doing it well for yourself.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
But it's really important that we say that, as members of the same community and as just, friends and people. So
yes, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome so much.
Well, thank you all for tuning in to another episode of the Artist Bloc podcast. I'm your host, Patricia Schuler. You can follow me on social media at Patricia Schuler, and we'll catch you next time.